is Bernhard Karpf. I'm an associate partner here at Richard Meier Partners, and I've started 25 years ago, pretty much to the day. So 25 years and we're still going, and we're still thinking it's good what we're doing, and we're working on a number of really exciting large-scale projects these days, not necessarily in Europe anymore, but South America and China, other places in Asia, and this opens a complete new chapter I think in the history of Richard Meier Partners.
My name is Reynolds Logan. I'm an associate partner here at Richard Meier Partners. I've been here for 25 years, almost to the day. I wanted to work here since I was 18 years old, I think, to be involved in this work. It's obviously inspired by, to a certain extent, by the work of Le Corbusier. I remember Richard always has his Le Corbusier story about meeting him in Paris and wanting to be involved in the Paris studio.
My name is Dukho Yeon. I'm an associate partner at the firm. I'm the third person you're interviewing today. We are 3 associate partners in New York, and we have 2 partners in Los Angeles. And how did I begin? So I started 1 year after Rennie and Bernie, and then in the middle I actually left the firm for 2.5 years, 3 years, and came back because Richard wanted me back. But I've been here and I have been involved in countless projects that I think I'm going to forget how many projects I've been working on.
It has been an amazing experience. There was never really a plan on spending 25 years here. There was an idea of maybe 2 or 3 years and then, move on to other things. But the projects that came up were just very fascinating, and the other interesting thing, since I'm from Europe, we had a lot of European work here, which by default kind of ended up in my lap.
I saw the work first, as I said, when I was 18 and I was a freshman at university, and I saw the little booklet that was published. I forget who the publisher was, but it was 1976. This book was published. And I remember looking at the SHAMBERG Pavilion house in Chappaqua and thinking that this was the most beautiful little house I'd ever seen. And I'm sure we were working on a residential project, and I'm sure that my little house project in that year looked like the SHAMBERG Pavilion. But at any rate, an idea was formed, some passion in my head for this kind of lightness and transparency in the work that we do here.
Well, I'm in charge mostly for all the international projects. So especially in Asia, we're doing projects in Taiwan, Japan, China, Korea, all over Asia, and now slowly we're getting more projects and inquiries from South America. We have projects in Brazil. Now we're doing a project in Bogota, Colombia, and we have several projects, 2 of which are hotels, which I'm involved in Mexico. It's very difficult to really pick 1 or 2 projects, because my philosophy is that every project you do is somehow special, and as Richard always likes to say, the most important project is the one you're working on right now. He says that to the clients, but it is true in a way that every project is very different. So what you do is you make your best effort to understand exactly what each project requires, what the client expectations are, and you do your best to make it beautiful and something very special that really stands out.
One of the first projects that I really got involved was about a year or 2 years after I started a project for Canal Plus, which was a private subscriber cable television outfit in Paris in France. I was one of the first cable operators, in Europe, and we started out doing a competition, and it was just a few weeks. We had only a few weeks time for that project, and we were lucky. We won the competition, and with the winning of the competition came the clear stipulation that the whole thing has to be done, finished in about 2 years, which for a project of that scale is a really challenging time. So it was interesting in a sense that we designed and we tried to understand the program, we designed and we had to get all the permits. But at the same time, our French counterparts, all the project managers, associate architects, consultants, whatever, already went into full gear and even started pre-construction service. The project is a series of TV studios and administration building. It's about 25,000 square meters. And it just went really fast.
I would have to say that my favorite, maybe only because it's more recent, is the WEILL Hall Laboratory at Cornell. And it's one of my favorites for a different reason than all the others. It's not as public as the courthouses or the Barcelona Museum, but it taught me a lot about process and collaboration and the involvement of so many people in a team. WEILL Hall was a very complex laboratory building, and the office had not done a science building before, and I obviously hadn't either. But what made the project unique was that the university and we assembled one of the most excellent teams of people, various groups of consultants and the like, to work on the project that I've ever been a part of. And that's what made it special, the process. Everyone had the same goal for excellence. The owner, the consultants, the architect, everyone in the team was pushing themselves to do the best work that they had ever done. It was an extremely cooperative and collaborative environment, and one that I personally feel like I thrive in, because I don't think that what we do here, although it may look in some ways singular from stylistic impressions, I think the work that we do is really a response to a number of factors that require everyone's input. The project that I'm currently working on, and have been for some time, is a residential tower in Tel Aviv, Israel. It's especially interesting because it's in the heart of Tel Aviv, in the White City, which is one of UNESCO's World Heritage sites. You may know that the White City is basically a neighborhood of low, mostly residential buildings that were designed by Jewish architects who immigrated to Israel in the mid to late 30s. So it's interesting for us to follow this kind of, for lack of a better expression, the simple international style, the economy of means, the whiteness of the white city. But working in the neighborhood is like having a conversation with Mendelssohn or Corbusier. The scale of our building is obviously a lot different than the other buildings in the neighborhood, but in some ways, even though the tower is quite different than the lower elements in the neighborhood, it has in some ways driven the decisions that we made about materials. We were mostly interested in lightness and transparency, and that's a very difficult thing to achieve in a climate like Israel's, where I just returned from there yesterday, in fact, and it was 35 degrees centigrade.
Another project that we have currently under construction is in Rio de Janeiro. It's a smaller office building, 7-story office building, right off the beach of Rio de Janeiro, which makes it a great site, as you can imagine. And we're basically completing all the concrete construction by, let's say, this fall, with an overall completion of the building, I believe, next summer, just ready for the World Cup. It's a very straightforward office building. It has a special function down here, conference room. We have a parking entry here that brings cars with elevators down into the basement because we couldn't fit a ramp. And what we did, it's a fairly clean glass box, a flexible office layout with all the circulation in the back in a courtyard setup. Let me see if I find a picture for that. Yeah, you have that here. Maybe this is the building. There's a bridge connecting it to the elevator and the stair tower, and this is outdoor space because the adjacent building is right next to it, and we felt like we want to bring in some lighting from the back of the building, not just the front. So the facade is basically a glass facade with a series of aluminum louvers as sun and acoustical screens, because it's a highly trafficked area in Rio de Janeiro. And so this actually does too. It helps reduce the sun, the solar glare, the energy, the solar energy intake, but also provides some sort of acoustical barrier.
I'd like to talk about this project in Korea, South Korea. It's actually in Gangneung on the east coast of South Korea, quite close to the DMZ actually, but it's a spectacular site. It is one of the cities that will sponsor the 2018 Winter Olympics, and the site is unusual because it's not only on the beachfront, it's on the coastline of Korea, the spectacular East Sea. You have amazing morning sunrise, but it's also surrounded by a canal which connects to a very large lake, which effectively makes the site itself an island. And not only is it an island, it's also a historical site where it's the highest point. It's a small mountain which is fronting the ocean. The building itself, design partie, is a undulating shape which actually follows the shape of the mountain. There's a high-rise part and a low-rise part. And the low-rise part basically has a roof deck with an infinity pool, which actually will merge with the views of the ocean and the sea beyond. It's a 150-room hotel. Almost all of the rooms face the ocean, so it's quite spectacular. All the design is very sensitive to the site conditions because it's an ancient historical site that you can only touch so much of the ground, and the landscape itself is spectacular. It has these many hundreds of year old very Korean traditional pine trees and bamboos, which we take every effort to try and preserve the quality of the site as much as possible.
This is the project I was talking about earlier in Mexico City, REFORMA, a 40-story glass tower. And the challenging thing about this project was that it's a very large footprint. It's about 40 by 40 meters, which would theoretically result in having the inside of the building without daylight. And what we designed, and you may be able to see that here, what we designed is 2 blocks of offices here, and they're tied together with an interior courtyard, an interior atrium space. And we designed it such that the sun would, and I'm trying to simulate that with this lamp here to as far as I can go, the sun would actually come in here, would be reflected down into the building to bring daylight into the building, into these offices that are lining the atrium. And at the same time, we're using this atrium as a ventilation element, so air would come in on the bottom, would rise up through here, naturally ventilate the inside. Now, one thing that is interesting, and that's why we call the project the Big Brother, Small Brother project, is because of parking requirements, the client had to buy the adjacent site to fit in all the parking spaces for the building, and that gave him the opportunity to add some more floor space here, and he felt like a hotel would be the right thing to do. So this is a hotel building with a similar setup, hotel rooms in the front, the back, with an atrium in the middle, open stair. And so the two of them were trying to make these two complement each other and talk to them like, as I said, little bear, or big brother, little brother.
This is Teachers Village, the first phase of our larger master plan in Newark. And it's basically located on Halsey Street and William Street. And we are integrating actually 8 buildings. We're designing 5 buildings, of which 1 is almost complete, and 3 others are under construction, just started construction. So it's quite exciting to see that it's actually all happening at the same time. And the first completed building is 2 charter schools and retail at the base on the street level, essentially to activate the streetscape. The scale is kept down to the Living Downtown Plan, which mandates a certain scale because it's historic, to 60 feet. For instance, we're using brick for the first time since Richard started the firm. And it's also important for us because Richard was born in Newark, and it's something that's very close to his home and his heart as well.